Do 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 do. Excellent connection. Pause. All right, everybody, we'll get started in just a few minutes. Just wanted to get everything going. Hi, Mark. Yeah, I'm a little early. I was ready. I didn't have to get the overhead cam going because it's usually the thing that gives me the most trouble. Decided not to today. Though I should probably clean it up over here so I could at least test builds. Hi, S. Oh, yeah, I have water. I've got this water with ice cubes. It's actually like half full already because the ice takes up so much space. And then I do have a second. I can never know which direction it is, but there's a... I got my backup ice water as well. We're not starting till 2 actually, but I wanted to get everything going. Seems like YouTube's going. Mr. Certainly says it's good on Twitch. Thank you, Bruce. Haven't seen anything on Restream yet, so if you could drop a comment on Twitch, that would be awesome, just to make sure. Twitter tweeted out. I know, Mark, you want kitty cam. He's kind of, well, he's like stealth. Because it's, the exposure's all wrong. Oh, there we go. Now you can probably see him. Laying in the sun in his bed. That's going to have to adjust back to me. Yeah, my plan is to, I'll do a kitty cam, a permanent kitty cam once I have a better camera for myself. Hi, Charles. And Mr. Certainly, thanks for the Twitch thing. I see it. I know you can see it too. Which is cool. Oh, you asked how Spook was, but didn't show in the chat. He's doing good. He hasn't had a seizure in like a week, so hopefully he won't have one today. He's just alternating between being in the sun and not being in the sun. Oh, did it not come in through top chat? If I switch my personal one to live chat, I don't see the house spook either, which is weird. I think I'm gonna leave the stream one on top chat for today. I worry a little bit about being quick on the moderation if somebody says something bad. Yeah, I'll get going in just a second. I think everything's going. There's a plane going overhead. Can you see the top of the OBS window? Or let me switch. No, maybe you can. It makes my window so small I can't tell. Hi, Simon. Good evening. I'm in Seattle, so it's afternoon here. And it's been pretty nice weather, nice and sunny. Spook got up and thought about leaving his bed that's in the sun, but he just ended up right back in it. Hi, Kathiri. Should I call you Kathiri or S? Alrighty. Let's get going. Let's see, I like to do offline. Hi everyone, I'm Scott and I go by Tan Newt. I work for Adafruit on CircuitPython. Welcome to my stream. Oh, Warrior of Wire, you're in Bellevue? Thank you so much for your contributions, and sometimes we should socially distance together. D Flowers asks, how often are the kitty seizures other than yours? Did not know cats had them. Yeah, cats are actually not very, it's not very common for cats to have seizures. It's more common for it to happen in dogs. And he has seizures, it's about every 2 weeks or so. Maybe once or twice, like within 24 hours for that 2 weeks. He starts by hissing and gets contorted and stuff. So if it does happen, I'll just mute and watch him to make sure that he doesn't, if he moves around, make sure he doesn't get hung up on stuff. But he is on 2 anti-seizure drugs and he still has them, so. Yep, kitty seizures. I mean, it's not all that bad. He spends all his every day laying in the sun here, except when he has a seizure. But they only last about 5 minutes or so, tops. So if you hear him, you'll probably hear him hissing, and then I'll mute and we'll just take a break. It happens, I don't know, what, a couple weeks ago? And last week maybe it happened at the end of one of the streams. So I just pieced out. But yeah. He turns 6 in next month, so he's relatively young. He's got lots of days of sleeping in the sun ahead of him. Okay, I started the stream. Yeah, so these are deep dives. I do them every week on Friday afternoons. It's been a really good way for me to check in with the progress on porting CircuitPython to the ESP32-S2, which is a microcontroller we're really excited about at Adafruit because it's got built-in Wi-Fi and built-in USB. We're talking about kitty seizures. Yeah, it's usually not too bad. He's like the friendliest he's ever friendly after he has one too. I have a few notes. Good evening, Duke. Thanks for joining in. I have some housekeeping notes, so that's why I'm looking down. First, like I said earlier, I'm sponsored by Adafruit. D Flowers, you're in Silverdale. That's awesome. I grew up in Kitsap County. I grew up just north of Silverdale. Silverdale was where we went to the mall when I was growing up. Adafruit's now shipping orders. They're not necessarily going out as fast as they usually do, but they are shipping them when they aren't doing priority orders. So be aware of that. I don't know how good everything is in terms of stock. So you can go on adafruit.com and you can check between like Adafruit stock and DigiKey stock because they ship real quick and they have lots of stuff too. Hi, Mikesh. Mikesh. Hello from Slovenia. Awesome. Thanks for joining. Yeah, so if you make orders on Adafruit, thank you first and foremost. And second, please be patient with shipping because it's possible that it will take a little bit longer. And then also, I know I have like 3 different... This is not the right way. This is the right way. I've got 3 different chat services on the window here. The one we recommend is Discord because it doesn't just last during this stream. You can go to adafru.it/discord or the Discord GG Adafruit that's on the screen as well. They will go in that. Then you can join our Discord server and chat with me and a bunch of other awesome people all week. So that's a place to start. Yeah, the comments are slower than they are typed. Yeah, it's possible. Some lag. Awesome. Okay. That's all I have for housekeeping. And I do have a list of stuff I want to accomplish on this live stream. For those of you new to this, it is a deep dive, so it's going to be kind of deeply like whatever I'm working on. which can be pretty technical and stuff. So if you have questions about it as I go along, please just put it in the chat and I'll stop and answer them. I think people have found these deep dives to be really helpful to just like see my workflow as an example of things. So the goal for today is to get the ESP32S2 pull request submitted to Adafruit CircuitPython. That doesn't mean that it'll be available in the main CircuitPython repository yet. It's like the final step. That's the step where we like people can review it and we can modify it to decide what we want to change before we check it in. That's the goal for today. In terms of, I also like to start with a recap of what I've done kind of in the last week. And for the ESP32S2, I haven't actually done that much. I got distracted by a couple things. I got distracted by the Teensy 4.1. So I added the pin mapping for the Teensy 4.1 and then released CircuitPython 5.4 beta 0. And that includes the Teensy 4.1. So beta 1, depending on timing, like we may see the ESP32S2 stuff start to hit for 5.4. It of course won't be marked stable. We won't call it stable at all. But it'll start to be kind of like distributed with everything then. And then the other thing I got distracted by was our intern Dylan has been doing a lot of work for me to convert. I can show you. In our source, there's certain modules that are available in Python, but they're actually implemented in C. And that API is, Katheri says, yeah, I'm new here, but a longtime fan of Adafruit. Well, thank you. Thanks for hanging out. These streams tend to be about 2 hours, so if you have to go, no worries. But I think a lot of people also like to have them in the background. So I'll try to like read off questions as I get them as well. I think Mr. Certainly said that that's really nice in case you're not actually watching the screen. Mudstreaks, aka, says, hi, I'm new here. I just got your joke and I'm not a huge fan, but okay. You can name yourself whatever you like. Shared bindings. So this is where we do the conversion from Python land to C land, and we have inline documentation within these files. So these are like the docs for digital in out. They used to be this person's distracting me. Just hang out and watch. That's what I would say. They used to be in RST, which is a restructured text format, and I could find the old version. It doesn't really matter. Nobody was a huge fan of it, but the advantage of it was that it gave you the structure of the Python stuff, and that was really good for a while. But we ultimately want to be able to provide CircuitPython or Python stubs, and stubs are really great because they're basically the structure of a Python file. All right. How do I ban this person? Boom. All right. Stupid. People on the internet are stupid. Can you still see it? I can't tell. Hold on. It disappeared from my window. Yeah. Awesome. I hope it's not a bad thing that you have to do, but thank you for stopping by. All right, well, restream chat, you lost the privilege. I can still see it. It just won't be on this stream. And you can see the bar. Oh, and you can see it there. Stupid. Okay. It's off now. Thank you so much, David. Was it on this screen or just the other screen? Okay, good. I'm glad it's not a bad thing. And this is recorded, so if you do want to watch it, then you can. But you're also welcome to just come by next Friday as well. Okay, so one of the things I got distracted by, well, yeah, I got distracted by this week was switching all of our inline comments for our native modules over from RST to Python stubs. So this is actually Python stubs syntax. The other screen. Oh, perfect. I think this is what we want. So this prefix is the prefix we used to use for RST, where it's just a C comment with a bar in front of it. And what we do is we pre-process it and strip it out and treat it like a separate file. That allows us to have our documentation in line with the actual implementation, which is good. Yeah, I think, David, you were pointing out that you could only see me when I was starting to talk about what was on my screen. I think I got that settled. Okay, so let me, I think I can loop this so it's not on my face. Like that. Yeah, one of the things that we did this week, and we got this checked in, is we switched these to Python stubs. And the advantage of this is we can distribute the stubs themselves, and then editors can autocomplete. It might work if I try it in here. Just open a Python file we could see. I was playing around with this. We can just try it. So if I do import digital, oh no, it's not working. I had a lot of trouble actually like getting it to work. But it should like start the autocomplete like digital in out. It doesn't work, so it's a pain. So that's the other thing I just got distracted by. Then we got that in yesterday or Wednesday. So I had some time to work on the ESP32S2 yesterday, and the goal for me was to get it prepared so that I could do an initial pull request, which would basically merge in all the work that we've done on the stream so far. So if you use the actual build, you wouldn't be able to do that much, but it would be something that all of us can build on rather than kind of just being in my branch alone. Yeah, Simon says that cable was so wanting to be part of the stream. It really was, wasn't it? Right in front of my face. It's kind of like the other cat who is now locked out of the room. She would be like that too. Spook's sister, Vin. She'd be meowing at me and tipping over the garbage can and stuff. That's why she got kicked out. So this is a good first step, and we can now work with editors to get better autocomplete for CircuitPython, which will be great. And then I switched gears back to the ESP32, and my goal was to get it prepared so that I can get kind of a minimum viable port in so that we can all build on top of it and refine it and stuff. So last week we did Blinky, so we were able to do basic digital input and output. I'm tempted. I was really tempted to actually work on that and refine it, but in practice, it doesn't really matter, right? What matters is that we get kind of all this framework in, and then we can fix that. We can do other things, and we can do them as much smaller changes rather than like the kind of massive change that we have so far. But one of the things that I did want to do before, as kind of like a foundational thing, is I'm expecting lots of people to hop on this really early because we've had really good responses. Like, for example, we had somebody on Twitter, I forget their name, somebody had already snagged my branch and got it running on their own ESP32S2 dev board that they created. They were blinking in LED as well. I'm hopeful that Unexpected Maker will do the same for his boards. So I wanted to make sure that kind of like all the mechanics of creating new boards and making sure that they all build and all of that was set up. So what I was what I did yesterday was I was working on the continuous integration tests. For those of you who don't know, it's basically whenever a pull request is made to CircuitPython, it gets validated. So if I don't need this tab anymore, so I can click here. So these are all the pending pull requests, and you can see these check marks here and these X's here. And they tell you whether like the CI. Oh yeah, Brandon, that was awesome. Thank you for doing that. I was like, oh man, people are really excited about this. Yeah, so the last thing that I was kind of wanting to do is I wanted to make sure that we had these checks in place so that we would be able to move and still assume that everything built basically. So if you just click the checks, you can see like 134 checks successful, and the build CI builds, and then this is the architecture, and then this is the board name. So I want to just make sure that like all of the ESP32 stuff is plugged into that. So I did that yesterday, and I ended up getting it working. So this is the last CI run that was done on my branch, which is what I've been working on. And it took a lot of commits. I have it somewhere here as well. Actually, let me see if I can make the window a little larger. And just let me know in the chat if I end up talking about something that's off the screen. This is not the comparison I was thinking of. This is the comparison I was thinking of. So if we look at just the commit log for yesterday, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 22 different commits. So that was like, the CIs are really hard to test because like, I don't know of a way to run them locally. So it was just a matter of like iterating on it. And I had to do it this morning a couple times as well. So we can talk about that. So it's defined in this build YAML file. This is a GitHub Actions thing. This is what 21 commits. Yeah, one less. Off by one. Classic programmer error. So these are the things that define like, oh, for all the RISC-V stuff, this is the board to do. And then so we run all the tests. We want to make sure that the tests work before we spend all the resources to build all the boards. So we actually, one thing we need to change is actually make the extensa stuff wait as well. I also deleted a giant list here. So most of what today is going to be is just going through the changes of what I've done kind of from the get-go and just cleaning it up. And then once it's cleaned up, I'll do a rebase so that I can like shuffle all the commits and merge them and stuff, because I don't want to have a bunch of commits with a bunch of junk in them. And that will be the foundation for the pull request. And then on the pull request, I won't rebase anymore. Hi, Jose. Okay. So let me just talk about the way that I did the CI, because Ivan had talked about previously using their Docker container. And I made some progress on that, and I definitely cribbed some of these commands from it. But ultimately, I couldn't use it because I needed to install some like Debian stuff. Specifically, I needed to install getText, which we use for our translation stuff. And I couldn't do that if I was using the Docker container. So this is the kind of job name. And then what you can tell it to do is like run one version of it for everything in this matrix. This is how we get builds for every board, is that we run a separate build task for every board. So first thing we do is upgrade to Python 3.8. We check out all of the source, so all of CircuitPython. I cribbed all this from the other ones. This makes sure that we have tags for every submodule and CircuitPython, so we can determine the version, which we then print out. This is something I added this morning, and it's pretty neat. If you have steps that bring in a lot of files that is like not dependent on the thing you're actually trying to test, you can cache it. And it looks like there's this really neat way on GitHub Actions to cache stuff. So I played around with it this morning and managed to get it working. So the way that it works is that this first step will run, and if it finds a cache with this key, then it will slurp that file down and just extract it. It won't run this second part, which is saying if we didn't hit the cache, then run these things to set up this path. So the IDF tools directory is the place that like the ESP32-S2 compiler is installed by this IDF tools command, which I slurped from the Docker file. And then the key is your cache key. So the way that I have it set up is that it includes the OS of the runner, and it hashes this file, which is the file that includes the git hash for the head of the ESP IDF submodule in CircuitPython. So theoretically, our cache should change every time we change the version of the IDF that we are based on. So that should work out. And I'm setting these two environment variables for the path and the tools path. Next, I do the standards install of the CircuitPython dependencies. I do have to do this IDF export because I want to pip install into the version of Python that is used by the IDF. I ran into that. Then we print out some versions. This is a great way to just make sure that we document what versions of everything are running and that they're all available. Like, so this one in particular, trying to use GCC from the ESP32S2, like that was failing until I got the IDF stuff set up right. MPyCross is a standard thing, and then we call our standard build release files, which is a Python script that will run through every board, and it will generate like the firmware.bin and rename it to be Adafruit CircuitPython version, blah, 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 blah. And then we upload those. So we upload them both to like GitHub Actions. So one thing that came with GitHub Actions is you can actually download the versions for PRs before they're submitted. So if it completes, you can go up to the top right of the GitHub Actions and you can download like an example for your board to test with, which is neat. And then we also upload it to S3, which is just a file service thing that we pay for Adafruit, and that has like all of the versions of CircuitPython and all of like per commit versions of CircuitPython going back for a little while at least. Yeah, so I was really happy to get that going. The other thing I did was I had talked a little bit about the desire to have one file to distribute and not a bunch, and so I poked around at how to do that. I did just realize that I could probably make the YouTube chat bigger on the screen, but that's okay. So the last thing that I want to do before clean up is I want to rework the partition order, probably. Nectos act on GitHub. What does it do? So I want to rejigger the partition table so that ideally I can ship like one chunk so that when you flash, you just give it one flash command. You don't need 3 files. Which I think I've changed the make file for, but I haven't actually tested yet. So that's the one sort of onboard stuff we're gonna, well, that's the first onboard thing we're gonna have to do. GitHub Actions locally. I'm pretty lazy. I'll just push it up. Okay, so I added this join bins tool that will output a binary file that is a composite of multiple binary files at different locations. And I showed it a little bit earlier. It just gets the file name, and then it figures out all of the offsets and input file names, and then opens the output file, sorts the offsets, and for every offset, if the output file is before the offset, writes Fs. This is great for, this means that, so spy nor flash defaults to 1 when you erase it, and so this means that you won't cause a 1 to 0 transition. And then I just write the input file to the output file for wherever it is, whatever position in the output file it is. So the thing I wanted to think about, and I realized during lunch or something, is that when we looked at partitions, I'm not sure we actually looked at partitions, but I don't want to, ideally I would not overwrite this like OTA data or the PHY data because it will include like your Wi-Fi settings, and I don't want to do that, or I don't want to erase it. I'd much rather keep it there. So let's just take a look. So this starts at offset 9,000. And then our image goes in this 10,000. This is hex, so the numbers I'm saying don't actually make sense. But yeah. So I think what we can do is we can shuffle these around so that basically the bootloader and the partition table live next to the OTA 0 spot. And actually, we may actually want to wipe the OTA data because we're always going to place in OTA 0. So if you used Wi-Fi to update and you accidentally, and you managed to do it, and now you're running basically on OTA spot 1, if you drag it over to update, then it wouldn't, we would actually want to erase this OTA data, I think. Because we want to make sure it defaults to 0 if we manually update to 0. So let's just take a look at the partition stuff to better understand what we can move and what we can't move. The OTA data partition is 2 flash sectors in size to prevent problems if there is a power failure by being written. If they disagree, a counter field is used to determine which sector was written more recently. And for factory boot settings, the OTA partition should contain no data, which is all FF. So that will work just fine with what we've got here. And the size is correct as well, 2000. And I don't think it matters where we put it. This was the question I had, was what can we move and what we can't move. Because the things that we don't have in this CSV file are, if we look here, we're placing the bootloader at 1000. So we could actually say bootloader bin is at 1000. And we're putting at 8000 the partition table. So it's also going before it. I don't actually know how big these are either. Right, so what's happening is if we are going to have one file and we're creating a flash file that includes these two things and this thing, then we're going to accidentally or intentionally write all Fs to NVS and phi init, which I don't know what they do. Let's take a look and figure out and see if we can't figure that out. But most likely we can just move where those exist and it'll be okay, hopefully. So let's look at this partition table stuff. The reason a partition table is flashed to the default offset of 8,000. Oh, and it's in kconfig, so we would have to update it there as well, which we can do. It gives more space for the bootloader. Note that the bootloader and app will both need to be compiled with partition table offset value. Right, because they're both going to read it, and it has to be a multiple of 1,000. Partition offsets in the CSV may need to be changed if this value is set to a higher value. I wonder if the partition table has to be at the start of the partitions. It looks like it might. Okay, let's continue reading. NVS and phi init. That's the question. What are those things? So OTA data, we're totally okay. Creating custom tables. My guess is that the bootloader has to be at that spot. So phi data is for storing phi initialization data. This allows it to be configured per device instead of in the firmware. In the default configuration, it's not used. To load, you have to do init in partition. And then NVS is used for non-volatile storage API. And it's also used to store Wi-Fi data if the set storage is to flash. And it should be at least 3,000 long. So we actually do have an NVM. We have an NVM module in CircuitPython that basically allows you to do this as well. We don't care if we were going to encrypt it. So I think what we basically want to do is we want to move the partitions, we want to move the partitions to the other side, these two. We want to move NVS and phi init data to the other end. So this will allow us to have a file that includes bootloader, partition table, we'll wipe out OTA data, and then we'll provide CircuitPython in this OTA 0 slot. Which we could actually bump a little bit. We might be able to scooch it down. Although I think there is a limitation about where it is. What was that? Ah, yes. So I think it is this 64 kilobyte boundary for OTA fields. Partition length is, table length is this. Nice, and we're putting it the stock spot, so that's good. Y'all are quiet in chat today. Am I still streaming? Or am I just being... You finally run out of steam. Greg asks, why keep OTA 1? I want to keep it because I do want to support OTA at some point. And so this, while I won't support it immediately, it kind of like ensures, by having it in the partition table now, it means that when we do add support for OTA, we won't have to shift everything around, which means that you'll be able to preserve your file system and stuff like that. That should be cool. Thanks all. Thanks for chiming in. I appreciate it. Glad you're still here. No questions though. Oh, well, Greg had a question, so that was a good question too. But yes, I do want to like lay things out so that in the future we don't have to move them when we want to support OTA stuff. Mark says he's porting TinyUSB to the ESP32-S2 STM. Cool. That's all good. I understand that you want to watch stuff while you do this. So the downside of moving it is that we're going to end up being a little bit wasteful because we won't want to shift. We want this partition to still be on a 64 kilobyte boundary. I remember seeing that. It's because you have to map it in. Bruce says, lurking and paying bills, and also ordered a Teensy 4.1. Awesome. I have a Teensy 4.1 here, and I have not done anything with it, but it's a cool board. I'm super excited. The IMX RTs are really, really impressive chips. And Paul definitely got ahead of that on there. I could have sworn there was a thing that said that the app partitions had to be on that boundary. Maybe it was in the OTA. Stuff. I don't remember. I'll just leave it. It's fine. The flash is huge. Yeah, Duke says it feels a lot like the Linux partition fstab. Yeah, I'm sure it was inspired by that because they're using kconfig, which Linux uses as well. All right, let's do some math here. So let me get my terminal out. Basically, I'm going to reset the offsets for these things. And so this is, I assume, 2 megabytes. So we've got some play afterwards. So let's just do Python. I can't do hex addition in my head. And 512 is 80000, I think. That makes sense. 11 and 4 zeros. And did it say how long the phi init needed to be? It does say that partitions should be. That should be fine. A great little tool called Bitwise for quick hex stuff. Yeah, but I already got a tool. It's called Python. I use Python as a calculator. Like I use it to do my like all of the math for my taxes and stuff too. This actually is making me wonder. I was just talking about kind of future proofing, and since we're changing the partition table, we could do we could actually either expand the OTA partitions from 512K to higher, or give more space for the user file system. What do you all think? Maybe the file system, actually. The OTAs it would be ideal that if they were always 512 kilobytes for all of the different ESP32S2 boards. Basically means that we would be able to include all of the same module support. I scooched over. So we'll just put the NVS stuff right afterwards, and let's make it a little bigger. I think it said if you're using it, it should be 6, which I don't actually know what that is. Bring in Python. So 24 kilobytes. I think that math is all correct. And then that would place this to this. Means the next offset here would be 7,000. So we could actually scooch. Maybe we place this at 12 and 4 zeros, which is how much? Yeah, so it's more. This partition is also for what branch and revision of the IDF are you using? I think it was just master from a few weeks ago. Git log. Oh, I guess it is my branch. NVS was 3,000 at least. I have NVS as 6,000 right now. But here's the git commit for the ESP IDF stuff. The only changes I've made to the IDF are to fix warnings. Yeah, 3,000 at least, so I made it 6 because it said 6 if you're using it for other stuff. So we'll use it for NVM as well. Okay, so I think we can add more size to the user file system, which I think is worth doing. So for this 512K for built-in CircuitPython, we don't have, we might need to change that in the future. But we don't have any builds, like the SAMD51 caps out at 256K. So we're basically doubling it, and that should be fine. I think that NRFs are a bit bigger. We might need to change this, but I don't know. Let's just leave it at 2. I'm a little scared to move the file system after people start using it, because it's actually really nice that then it doesn't change. Okay, so bootloader and partition table go in the same spot. OTA we've left between the bootloader partition table and our OTA 0, which means that every time we install one of these bin files, we'll wipe it out, which is good because we always want to start with OTA 0 and just restart. And that shouldn't have to change anything. We'll need to recompile because we changed the partition table, but we don't need to change the kconfig because this is the same as well. So we should be able to verify that this works. And then we can do the code cleanup and get the PR out. I already had somebody, forget who it was, somebody emailed me with like a comment about how to improve the code. So y'all who are watching can do reviews for me once the PR is out. I'm not going to look over the weekend, but next week we'll iterate on it. I think it shouldn't be too bad because it's all like kind of duct tape and chicken wire, but yeah, it'll be good to build on top of. Okay. So let's do a sanity check test. Make board rover. Bruce asks, so if you change the partition table in the future, make the app size bigger, you overrun the existing NVS and PHY data, I guess. True. We could place it right before the file system, but if we're going to do that, we might as well just make the OTA sections larger, which maybe we should just do. Maybe we should just do that. I mean, there might be a partition type that I don't know about yet as well. I think I'm overthinking it. Like, worst case, we just tell people, like, make sure you back everything up. It's going to change it all. Okay, so let's do it clean. One thing we're going to have to do in the future is we're going to have to make it so this can actually use multiple tasks at once. Right now it does not, which makes it a little slower. But that's because I was having trouble running multiple copies of Ninja. Mark asks the famous question, would you really need more than 512K? I don't think so, but I also don't know. The big unknown in my mind is actually how big the libraries are for the Wi-Fi stuff, because I think some of that will live in the OTA partition. So I'm a little worried that like sucking in all the TCP/IP stuff could be big. That's fine. We can always tell people. CircuitPython is like 3.5 years old or whatever, and we try not to break people and their APIs, but at the same time I kind of want to keep doing it just so people know. People get used to things needing to be updated. So if we need it, we need it, and that's fine. Yeah, Bruce says overthinking can be an issue. It's true, and like the whole goal of this PR has been to not overthink it. Okay, I'm gonna plug in my board here. Sorry I don't have the overhead on, but it's just like, it makes my laptop sad. Makes my laptop sad because it's like another HD video stream in that it's gotta like deal with. Okay, so this is flashing just the singular bin file, and it looks like it started up just fine. The advantage of leaving the FATFS where it is means that the current one still is there, which is great. And it looks like it's working from where we left off, so that's super cool. So let's exit. The other thing I could do, so... All right, Bruce is going to build some shelves, but you can listen in. So the other thing I could do before we make any more progress is I do have a room Sala as well that I got from DigiKey. So I could actually swap over to using it just to make sure that it works. And I think we should do that. Yeah, I think we should do that just to confirm that from a very blank board it works. Anything kid is saying if code has errors. Oh, it's bright. Oh yeah, NeoPixel is something we're gonna have to add. Mistest. This is a stream about making CircuitPython work on the ESP32-S2, which is a new chip from Espressif that has native Wi-Fi and native USB. Anything, kid? I don't want to see your if code has errors. Go to Stack Overflow. All right, so I just plugged in the Sala with the room on it, and we're building, and we should flash and see if it works. And then the next step is going to be looking at the comparison and finding all of the log statements and stuff that I may not want to leave in. And like do general cleanup. For example, like I deleted a lot out of the build.yaml that I definitely should not have. And I think I can use Sublime Merge to do that maybe as well. That would be cool. I'm not sure. Flash, flash, flash. Oh no, it's going to leave the NeoPixel blue. Create the file system. And we did that. And now, if I just move these pins over, I'm just hooking the room Sala up to Blinky just to make sure it works. So clicking in the native USB, we'll see if it pops up. Yes, it does. Mac is asking me about a keyboard because it's the first time it's seen the device. And if we go here, it pops up here. There is no code.py, which I don't know why it doesn't. Oh, is it a room? Biff says, let's break something. But we haven't. We're just like too good today. Should I spill my water on my keyboard? I'm feeling a little lazy. I don't really feel like I want to port over my Blink code. This is good enough for me. We'll call that good. All right, we'll eject it. We can see that it's doing writes. And I'll disconnect it. I'll physically unplug it. I would like to support the memory on the rover at some point too. But again, the goal here is to just get the pull request in so that like multiple people can work on different parts of it. Okay, so that worked out. The partition table moved just fine. So let's just commit it and we can watch our beautiful CI run. Move phi and s nvs. So now if we pull up Firefox and we look at Not this. Let's do a code review. So this is the S3 bucket where all of the stuff gets uploaded. It's not here now because it hasn't been run on master. But that's where it'll end up. Then if you go back here, you can see all the workflows that have been run. And this is the commit we just did. And it's building the board artifacts, which is awesome. So let's start cleaning it up here. Do you think, let me poll the audience. Do you think it's worth leaving all the debug logs in? I don't want to leave them, well, I can't leave them if they live outside of the ESP port, but I could leave them if they are within it. I actually already deleted some that were in main.c because it was making the atmel samd build not work. Okay, let's pull up our comparison. So we're going to redo these commits. Let's not worry about that. And let's look at files. Okay, so we're starting with all of the stuff that I messed up. Here. So in build YAML, I don't think you could see it all. Biff says, I think it is to some benefit to have the debug logs. Yeah, we could leave them. We could leave the ones that don't mess up the other ports. That's fine with me. They will potentially slow it down, but it's already slow for now. Okay, so the way I'm going to do this is I'm just going to paste it back in. Do I want to do that? Or do I want to try to do... I have not this. Merge, Sublime merge. I wonder if I can do any Sublime merge power users out there. I'm wondering if I can basically pull this diff up and undo stuff. But I don't know how to use it that well. So I'll do it the manual way. GitHub workflow build. 70. Here. And then this big long list. I just didn't want to run everything that I wasn't actually testing. Here. And then we add this extensive build stuff, which we do want to leave. And okay, so just going down. So this is like right click the diff and edit contents. Oh, in Sublime merge. I was hoping to get like the open an editor. So like this discard hunk stage hunk stuff is really nice. But I really want to like I want to diff from. I don't want to reset. I want to diff over a bunch of PRs. It's fine. I can do it manually. So, okay, so Move this back over so you can see it. So we're basically done with this file. So I'm just going to collapse it. Git modules is adding the ESP IDF, which we want, and we'll use mine for now. This is exempting stuff from the Sphinx builds. That's fine. And then this stuff is okay as well. This is for the static stack. So we'll leave that in. Leave this in because I moved it around. That's okay. That's okay. And now we're in the ports ESP32-S2 directory, so it's going to be even more okay to leave stuff. Our make file's a mess, but I think we'll just leave it. It's a mess, but it's fine. Background looks okay. There's stuff we need to fix there as well, but we can do that later. This is fine. Board.h, standard stuff. Board.c is standard stuff. MB config board. This is something we worked on before. I think maybe I could delete this stuff. It's not useful. It's not going to work either, I don't think. So that was in board.h. Yeah, all this flash size stuff, we're not using that. Not using it because we use the partition table instead. And this default UART stuff we can reintroduce with when we have UART support. One thing to think about is that like all of these board files are gonna get copied as people add their own boards. So having them be as minimal as we want to see get copied everywhere is a good idea. That's the same reason I wanted to get the CI stuff in. This looks fine. We split out the flash config so that we can change that. We have our pins for the module, or for the board. SDK config is the same because we don't support the PSRAM. And I did this one as well. Did this one, this one. Empty SDK config, empty board module. I think the vote from Biff was to just leave the debug logs, so we can leave these in here in digital IO. I think that's fine because we're definitely going to need to edit this and have a follow-up PR. So leaving the debug stuff in for now will be helpful for doing that. So we'll leave those in. This is all stock standard. This is the same. Claimed pins. I don't think this is gonna work. This might crash if pin number is higher than 32 or 8. I think what we should do is let's just make it so it doesn't work completely without crashing. So that's in Common Hal. Remember, like some of this stuff we inherited from, what file is that? Pin. We inherited it from the FOMU port. So for now, we'll just empty it out. Because I think we want to check the IO mux. So here we'll just always return true. So if you use a pin for two things, it's not my fault. Okay, that looks good. Pin.h is all the same stuff. Processor is basically stubbed out as well. H as well.
init. Nesting stuff, but we don't actually enable and disable interrupts yet. We just wait forever if we do a reset, and we have our pin mappings for that, which we want. That looks okay. Let's look at NeoPixel right. NeoPixel right is definitely not correct. Let's just delete all that stuff right now. Since we're cleaning up, there's no reason for us to check it in. This is all the stuff for FOMU. The reason that it's building is that we're not even calling it. Not even using it. We're not compiling it even. So let's just do that. We'll pretend. Next up, we have OS. Let's change this. ESP32S2. We can update that later if we want to, but that'll be good for now. Next up, runtime. This is all the standard tiny USB stuff, so that'll be fine. Runtime.h is the same. Supervisor init doesn't do anything. Current tick. I don't think we have time. Well, we have time on, so that must work. I must have implemented that. IDF is fine. Peripheral config is a file we added, so it should be fine. There's not a bunch of junk in it. We could implement this once we have the RTC going. Well, we kind of have it going, but hardware common we do not need. Let's just delete that. That looks like it's all FOMU stuff. Just even delete the directory. It's not a common directory that we have, so just delete it. np config port looks okay. I mean, it works. Just leave it. .make works. There's nothing egregious there. Hal port looks okay. I simplified this. We had some commented stuff for the stack that I already deleted. Partitions we just updated, so that's fine. Pins are good. We did pins. This is looking pretty good. I might end up with extra time. This looks good too. I don't even know why we have this file anymore. I don't think we use it at all. This default is going to be fine. I don't care. So we're still in ports ESP32S2, so I think we'll just leave the logging here with the like basic file system caching stuff. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. We have some pretty complicated file system caching for external SPI flashes, but there's no great way to share it with this internal flash version. But it would be good to restructure it so that we could. Okay, let's keep going. Let's see, root pointers, just fine. Port.c is going to have this, some more logging. And I think this heap and the stack stuff is correct because we had to get that working. And the tick stuff works, and the sleep stuff doesn't potentially actually sleep, but it does work. So let's leave that. All the USB stuff and some tags there. I actually don't really care about Like we shouldn't have to do any more USB stuff, so let's actually clean this file up a little bit. So we can delete this. We can delete this. We have two of the same thing, so we can delete that. Da, 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 da. And we can delete the logs. We'll do the same like quick test to make sure I don't break anything. Just trying to make it a little bit of a smaller PR because it makes it easier to review. Current tick doesn't work. It's empty. All right, well, we'll leave that for later. You know, I don't think we even need this. I don't even think we're using it. I think I'm just going to delete it because I changed that. Yeah, I changed that. I don't think we need it. When I did the lower power stuff, I made us do tick stuff differently. So that might cause a build error, but we can chase that down and fix it after we're done going through this. Okay, I deleted this file too. So this is the new port fix stack, which I think we're going to actually need to add this to more ports. This might cause some build issues. So we'll run the CI and everything, and this might cause some issues as well. But we can see later. This is new API. So we're outside of the ESP32 specific stuff. So if we do see any log statements, we definitely want to remove them because they won't work on other platforms. This makes sense. We don't want to move our display memory if we're not enabled for display IO. This is the fixed stack stuff that we did. This is the canary stuff. That's what, I forget who it was. I got an email about the canary stuff. This is okay. Supervisor make. This is actually like properly including stuff. Which is good. Okay, I still have this. It's in here now. Okay, that's good. Build board info. I alphabetically sorted the ports. And then I added the ESP32S2, so that's correct. And join bins, which we looked at earlier. That was like actually a lot smaller of a PR than I expected. Okay, so let's build and make sure that everything's still hunky-dory. And we could actually build one board from every port to make sure that that works as well. So let's just do, I'm gonna actually clean and do a proper like build from nothing. I still have this board plugged in, so we'll just use that for testing. I'm guessing it's not going to compile because there was that call to current ticks that doesn't do anything. It's possible we're not using it though. No rule to make target tick. Okay. I don't know if you can even see that. It's kind of hard to find the errors sometimes. It's right here. So let's just look at our make file and delete it. And continue. Anybody have any exciting weekends plans? Games you're playing? I'm gonna play some Age of Empires at least. And I'm gonna put a rack up in the garage. Swap out a GFCI socket for a socket with plugs. If that makes any sense. Okay. Port to H, remove tick. Because we're not using it anymore. Is this the one where we call current tick? don't think so. Who's gonna try this code this weekend? Anybody? Yeah, we'll see if Brandon does. Mr. Certainly says, I'm finishing my overhead camera mount, aka the Franken clamp. Abominable is Foxhole and SCP-SL. I don't know what that is. Warrior Vire says, I might try to see if I can make DisplayIO send DMA bits in parallel while rendering pixels. That would be amazing. That would be really amazing if you could compute pixels while we spit them out. That would be like a 2x speed up, probably. Mark says, Eurovision was meant to be tomorrow. There is some replacement show instead. Bruce says, I'll probably try out this code tomorrow too. Awesome. That would be sweet. Did I delete this? Or did I get distracted? I got distracted chatting. What is SCP-SL? I'm sure it's a game. I don't know what it is, though. Okay, pin claimed pins is defined but not used. And microcontroller pin, let's see. Oh, yeah. Don't need that. Bruce says, holiday weekend in Canada. Hopefully people won't show up here. I live in a tourist area. Says, I'm anti-everyone for some odd reason. Yeah, we have a holiday weekend next weekend. We gotta figure out what we're gonna do. We might go see my parents who live a couple hours away. Alright, so it compiled and it's flashing. And it looks like it's starting up just fine. So that's enough for me. Mark says, I have some project I want to use the STM32L552 on, so I'd like to get TinyESP working on it. Mr. Certainly says, I'm researching a replacement for my aging 2013 MacBook Pro, debating going with a Mac Mini with an eGPU versus a MacBook Pro 16 versus other alternatives. Ooh, that's a good question. I definitely am. I am in the Mac camp. Oh, has GPIO with LP UART. Mark, do I have to get back to you on the SWD or the debug UART output? Did we merge that? I don't even know. Mark says they won't let Canadians across the border right now anyways, or Americans the other way. Okay, so that works. Consider that done. And then let's just do the other ports to make sure. Or let's just commit it and we can let the CI do it. That's what the CI is for. Okay. All right, everything's in there. Clean up. I think I might just rebase this all into one thing. Okay. Need to fix the VCP. Yeah, the Control C. Okay. Not waiting on me. That's all I care about. So let's push that and we'll let the CI run on everything. Oh, that reminds me. Crap. There was one other thing I needed to fix for the CI, which is we don't want to build the extensive stuff until after the test runs. It's not the end of the world, but it doesn't make sense if we're gonna just fail something simple. So let's add that needs there. Wait for tests. Those of you who use Git a lot, what is your philosophy? I have this branch that has 46 commits on it now. Would you just do this as the PR, or would you actually rebase it to and squash it to make it fewer commits? I think I want to squash just because there's so much temporary stuff that I did that I wanted to like not leave my traces that I like changed it and changed it back. Okay, so here's our previous build. Let's find, I think we can cancel that cleanup one. Let's just cancel this. Can we not cancel it? We can create a status badge. Cancel that one. Do we have to do them separately? I think we might. We could leave these ones running. Oh, no, they got canceled. That's okay. Let's go back to the one we care about. Bruce says, yep, squash away. Warrior Virus says I'd squash into one. Yeah, I think so. I don't like to squash or rebase after a pull request review happens, because then it makes like the comments weird. So I like having a little bit of history, but this is definitely a lot more history than I care to have set in stone forevermore. So I think some of you are relatively new to CircuitPython. I'd love to know how you got into it. Mark also says, when I do big stuff like that, I get it working, and then I squash to one commit, then reset soft, then commit things in a nice order. Ah, okay, so you don't... Oh, I see. I see what you're saying. Because you could have, like, different folders be different commits with different comments. So this is good. Now we only have this test and this MPy cross building. So what we should see is that when test finishes, it's going to do all the boards. 100 plus something boards. We definitely need a cat cam. Even if you can see him start to have a seizure sometimes. Okay, well this is doing, we can squash now, and then if we need to, we can I don't know if I've ever actually used git squash. I always do interactive rebase instead. Oh, there isn't a git squash. That's probably why. So the way that I do it, and you're gonna not like that, Mark says, I got into CircuitPython wanting to build a robot and got a Cricut, and now I'm trying to push code to the community bundle. Awesome. It's been great. Like, when we did the Adafruit bundle, we also did the community bundle, and it sat for a long time without any community stuff, or like one thing. And it's started to pick up, which is really cool. So Mark's example is I enabled the FT6556 interrupt to Zephyr for STM32, and then I made a separate commit for the example app. Okay. So we're going to do an interactive rebase. And I could probably do... My vimfoo is kind of weak. Fix up. Global. Is that right? If I want to just change all the picks to fix ups. Oh, one worked. How do I do the whole file? Oh, really? How do I do search and replace in Vim? Managed one. Ah. A work in progress commit and then just commit amend to it. I try not to change my public stuff that much. Find and replace all. I was so close. These weird noises. Current line only. Confirmation. Different lines. Maybe it's the percent. It's probably the percent. Thanks, Steven. %s. Pick. Fix up. G. Heyo. Thank you. Then I'm going to make this reword. So, for those of you who don't know Git, interactive rebase is your chance to pretend that the way that you did things is not the way that you actually did them. So I always use the reference that ends up at the bottom. Usually you can see it, but it's just a big long list. So for every commit, you have all of these different options that you could do. You can like reorder the lines for the patches to be applied to different spots. I generally don't do that, but fix up and squash can be nice. So this is me just making one big commit out of it all. So it should prompt me for a new. There's like a door squeaking outside. That was really weird. Mark says git rebase --lie. As long as it works for you and isn't stupid, then do it your way. I don't know what ways are stupid and which ones aren't stupid. Wheeling Wizard 71 says, still on the early learning curve for CircuitPython, previously a C# programmer. Like the Far Side cartoon, Mr. Olsen, can I go home and my brain is full. Looks like I'll have to ditch Turbo Pascal to pick up CircuitPython. Not use Turbo Pascal, but I hope that CircuitPython is more pleasant. Okay, so let's write this and we'll begin the rebase process. So initial ESP32S2 work. Blinky works, but no pin validation or anything. That's fine, right? Like, this isn't a big deal. Ooh, conflict. Okay. It's a joke. Let's see what this is. So when I'm doing rebase, I'm actually updating the version of CircuitPython that it's based on as well. So that's why I'm getting this issue. And it's in pi circuit python make or mpconfig. Touch IO. I can never remember which head is, like, if head is my work or not. Oh, that's a name I'm gonna have a hard time pronouncing. Huxtochiktwal. Sorry, I know I butchered that. It says, I got into CircuitPython at work when my boss wanted a Zigbee network using some Arduino Nanos and DigiXP modules. Never finished that project, unfortunately. Okay, I don't actually know. Which is which. You know what? I think you can always go to the thing. You can just check. We want it to be whatever's in here. Although I don't think that's actually true. I think we want full build. Do we want it with full build? We may not actually want that. We want it one. This is me scrolling well, I think. I scroll right by it. Touch. Touch IO is always on. Just a little weird. But I don't want to change that here. I don't want to do this full build change. So I'm going to do touch IO 1 as it is in master. And then in the port, I'm going to make sure that we turn it off here. Just so that we make sure we don't get it. Not staged. That makes sense. When in doubt, do git status. If you're new to Git, when in doubt, do git status. Because it will tell you things like fix everything and then run this, and you can copy and paste it, and it keeps going. Don't care about this. Oh wait, I did want that, didn't I? Steven says I can never remember a head either. That's why I use P4 merge. Oh, Andy. Andy says, I should have changed my nickname from that. Sorry. It's an Aztec goddess. No, that's cool. I'm just glad you're not insulted by the fact that I mispronounced it. And let's do a git commit amend as well, because I think I just deleted the thing that said, yeah, I deleted the thing I wanted to keep. Basic blinky works, but doesn't check pins. Okay. And do we have, I don't think we have any issues for it yet. But that is what, I'll push this out. I think it's going to be a fine PR. And I'll push it. Actually, one thing we can do before we do that is we can check on our CI because it fails. So let's see why that is. New boards check. They're not sorted. I'm the person that added that check, so I have no one to blame but myself. Wanting it sorted. It's just so nice when the list is so long that it's sorted. Whoop.
It's kind of a bummer that we lost all that time for checking it, but git status, git add, and then git commit amend. Okay, so this should be fixed, and so let's push it and we'll watch the CI. But of course, when you rebase, so pushes expect like the previous version to be in your history that you're trying to update. But when you do a rebase, you're rejiggering all the commits. So there's this force with lease, which is really nice. You could do straight up force, but force with lease makes sure that your version of your belief of what the remote is at is the same as what the remote is at, which is a way to make sure that nobody else accidentally moved it since you had it. So we'll do that, and we will check this. That's kind of a cool commit hash, 6AAAB00. That's how you know it's a Friday, when you're like, oh, that git commit hash is really cool. All right, so we had 20 minutes. Let's let this run. The thing that I want to do now is the thing that I should have done already, but I haven't, which is I want to make some issues. So we're going to break 300 probably. Just not always great. So if you want to get into CircuitPython development, keeping this under 300 would be great, but I'm about to make it more. So I want to brain dump my ideas and your ideas on what we need to still do. Hi, M.A. Sadiq. Thanks for joining. Okay, so let's make some issues here. Finish digital I/O. And labels. Oh, it's a CircuitPython API, ESP32S2. And I think I'll snag it as well so that nobody else does it. And then milestones, we'll say it's 5x. Warrior Wire says, for sure post up when you get a palindrome hash. Does it have to be the full hash or just the 7? The short version of the hash. Okay, we're going to create another one. Move to Ninja Build System. Because I'm crazy. Native code MPy working. Hi, Belkacem Kamara. Thanks for joining. I'm going to call this ESP32 tooling enhancement long term. It's not a huge priority. It can be slow. Mark says you need to get native code working. I found that when trying to enable NeoPixel. Why do you need... Oh, just for the library for MPY. Interesting. I would expect MPI to work. Full hash ideally, but the short one would work too. Okay. Wi-Fi. Get Wi-Fi working. This is going to be a big task because it's going to involve changing the API. ESP32S2 network.
refactoring features. I'm gonna snag this one too. Alvaro says, hey, from Costa Rica, kudos on 5.4 beta. Thank you. Okay. Mark, why didn't you make a... That's what we could do. We could have an issue party. I don't have to make them all. NeoPixel, though. That's a good one, actually. We need to get NeoPixel going. And I noticed that Python API enhancement ESP32S2. That should be a recent one. Maybe I should do that next week. It'd be nice to have the status LED going. A good link would be in TinyUSB. There's a library that I stumbled across. That does LED strips using the RMT. So we might want to just snag that. So I'll put that in the comments. What? There's so much other stuff that was on my brain in terms of what we need to do. This is not important. This is important. Bus IO is another one, but that's... Man, I'm not remembering. CircuitPython API. Enhancement S2. Nice. So everybody is welcome to create issues as you try stuff. For things like this where we add bus IO support, it's pretty straightforward and it's good to just cruise through and just make sure that if you happen to implement it, you mark this as fixed as well. Okay. Milestone. Like that's core, so we're going to do that soon. I'm sure I'm spamming the CircuitPython channel too. Yeah, Mark pointed out that a merge from him is Buzz Games. What's up? First time catching this live. Watch some replays from earlier streams. Super interesting stuff. Thanks, Buzz Games. Let me know if you have any questions. We're about to wrap up. We got like 15 minutes left. We're just brain dumping all the stuff that is left to do for the ESP32S2 and CircuitPython, which is a lot. But my brain is blanking on some of the things that were really key. Oh, one was factor out flash caching to share between internal and external. Chesscamp says, hey, what are you doing? I'm brainstorming tasks to do for the CircuitPython on the ESP32S2, which is a new chip that has built-in Wi-Fi and built-in USB, which is exciting. Factor out file system cache. So it can be shared. Internal and external flashes. And this is going to be ESP32S2. Chesscamp says, I have no idea what you said, but I think you're very smart. Thank you. I have a lot of practice. Yeah, so we're, I was doing some programming earlier. We're this is one of the boards that we're working on. This has a Wi-Fi chip on here. So we're just brainstorming. We're making a little progress every week. So we're brainstorming stuff that we still have to do. Refactoring. Supervisor. This is not super urgent, but it would be good because we're going to cause more flash writes than we potentially need. So I'm going to put that there as well. We don't make the chip itself. It's made by a company called Espressif, and they make it because it ends up in a lot of like Wi-Fi connected smart devices. So if you have like an outlet that you can connect to your Wi-Fi and have it turn off and on with some service, like it's pretty likely that it'll have a chip like this in it to do that. 3N Jad says, what is the advantage of CircuitPython over MicroPython? So first and foremost, I'm very biased because CircuitPython has been informed by what I want to see happen. But one of the main advantages is that we have a huge collection of libraries built on top of CircuitPython. And that was only possible by us having a standard hardware API across all of the ports, all of the chips that we support. Which is something that I, ages ago now, had discussions with MicroPython, and they didn't want to do that because it would prevent them from having like pieces of the API that were specific to particular chips and like what they would do better. That's one example. Another example is in CircuitPython, we now, like both CircuitPython and MicroPython will show up as flash, as like a drive when you plug it in. We only support that way of working, where MicroPython allows you to use some other tools as well. And in addition to that, CircuitPython will auto reload your code after you write it, or after you write any file to the file system, so that it's really quick to test and iterate. Those are just two. There's a lot of, if you want to see in a kind of old list now of differences, you can just go to the repository, and in the README there is a differences from MicroPython overview. Chess Champ says, Adafruit, do you play chess? Sorry for asking lots of questions, but I get excited when I meet smart people. I do not play chess. But I'm sure there's other folks in the chat that do. So I would encourage everybody to join the Adafruit Discord. I'm sure there's lots of people that like to play chess. I know, blasphemy, right? Okay, Buzz Games says, quick question. Have been fiddling with ESP now lately. I know CircuitPython is not for the ESP specifically, but I haven't found many issues on this. And any plans to include it? We're planning on supporting the ESP32-S2 with CircuitPython. If you're asking about other chips from Espressif, we don't plan on supporting any of the current ones because they do not have native USB. And part of what CircuitPython is the ability to plug it in and edit the file, which you need native USB for. I could be a high-rated chess player. Well, I could be a lot of things. Alvaro says, the CircuitPython community is amazing. People teaching and helping out. Very nice doc. Even a little bit of Spanish. More to come. Chess Champ has all the questions asking, do you have a degree? Yes, I have a computer engineering bachelor's from the University of Washington. It's my higher education degree. Oh, man. You're like a journalist here. Chess Champ asks, actually, you know what? I could turn the restream chat back on. Chess Champ has helped scroll away the stuff that I had turned it off for. At what age did you start falling in love with programming? I started programming when I was in 2002, which means I was, is that right? 18? I was born in 86. No, 16. Math is hard. I did PHP then, and I kind of always liked it after that. So I have decades of experience. So it takes practice to become good at something. Don't forget that. I feel like there's... Oh, we're at 299 issues. Let's just scan through the comparison again. We're running out of time. You all watched me come up with this. Oh, we can check on our... So many open stuff. Here we go. Okay, so our build is going. Nothing's failed yet, so that's good. Wait. Looks like this has failed. Why? Like this has nothing to do with me. Some of our builds are just so tight. Like the Chinese version of the Circuit Playground Cricket stopped building because it's something I did for the ESP32 stuff. Hi, Johnny Bergdahl. Thanks for doing some translations. For those of you who don't know, we now have, what is the Weblate? We have this. You can help translate messages from CircuitPython using this fancy dancy translation API. So you could say translate, and you can pick a branch and a language. I only speak Pirate in addition to English, and I could see what strings need to be. Oh, I picked all strings. I don't want all strings. Strings needing action. To exit, reset the board without. So the question is, how would a pirate say that? So we can hit clone source. Not that creative. So yeah, check this out. I'm not going to do it. I will post it in the chats though. Chess Champ's interviewing me some more. Yeah, we should. Yanni says we should recruit the Pimoroni folks for pirate translation. But yeah, it's very handy. If you need context, it does link to the file location, but obviously I'm not sure that's helpful. It doesn't go to the line. That's kind of unfortunate. Mark beat me to issue 300. That's all good. Okay. Chess Champ asks, at 16, how or where did you learn how to program? Did you teach yourself or read books at the library or had a friend that was teaching you or school? I want to know, where do you start? Alvaro says, love Weblate. We'll get into that. I'll show you where I started. This is not where I would recommend now, but in 2002, I started with this book. I still have it on my shelf. It's a PHP book, and it like walks you through like very basic principles. And the reason I know it was 2002 is because I actually like dated a few of the exercises. So you can see, I have a talk about this actually, but I dated it. I don't know if you can see it. I got like halfway through this, but then I ended up following tutorials online. If you want to get into it now, I would say online's a great way to do it. If you want to do hardware, like we're talking about, the folks that I work for, Adafruit, who I am streaming under, they have learn.adafruit.com, and it's a great way to get started doing stuff as well. But that does usually require hardware as well. So yeah, find something you're interested in, just learn, like search, learn
learned it all. Is it hard? I would say it's no harder than any other skill and knowledge area that you have to learn. It's just like learning math or English. Like, it's something that you have to practice. I think the requirement to be a decent programmer is to practice. Like, practice, and some people kind of pick it up more quickly than others, but it ultimately comes down to practice and experience. Oh yeah, Mr. Certainly also points out a great way to start is with MakeCode. Which you can do without hardware as well. All right, this is really bothering me because there's an issue that I feel like I'm missing. Okay, this is annoying, but that's not the end of the world. Chess says, do you have to be smart? Because I don't think a dumb person can program. I don't think... that's not a fair way to think about it. Because people can be good at one thing but not another. Like, smart and dumb is too broad of a generalization. And you're comparing yourself to me, and I'm 33. Like, I don't think you're 33, so you have to imagine what I was like as a teenager. What? Supporting the RAM would be good. How old do you think I am? In school? Because you said school is an option. Definitely take classes if you can. Because then you have a teacher that's geared to help you out. Oh, removing this delay would be good. I'm just going to call that do first pass it. Add performance improvements. I did see your question, Buzz. I'll get to it in just a bit. Enhancement ESP performance. Do that for power as well. I would link to the delay. Actually, I'll just type it in the comments here. Background doesn't do a Chess Champs 37. I'm glad you admire. Thank you for admiring me. It's never too late to learn. You definitely don't need school to learn it either. Mark says, Chess Champ, if you can play chess, you can code. It's all about solving things. Duke points out that the VS Code device simulator express is really nice if you don't have stuff as well. Johnny asks, so MicroPython is English only? Yes, it is. I don't think they've added translations. They've added string compression like we do, but not translations. Quarky points out hardware counts for 90% of everything. I agree with that. BuzzGames asks, what resources do you recommend for C and C++ programming? And I don't really have good resources that I can think of. Sorry. I did C++ when I was at Google. So the the like C++ style guide was kind of helpful. And then for C, it's a lot of just mimicry of looking the stuff. Okay, yeah, and Mark points out the thing with programming is you're always learning. You'll find new things to learn daily. Alvaro recommends the C programming language by Kerrigan and Ritchie. Chess Champ, you're welcome to follow Adafruit. We do all sorts of live streams. It's not always me streaming on the Adafruit channel. You can find me as TanNewt, TANNEWT as well. For online learning, Mr. Certainly also points out edx.org, edx.org. That's a great way too. Mark says, I've been doing this too many years and CircuitPython is something I'm learning now myself. BuzzGame says, I've been trying to level up some higher level languages. Miroslav Zuzelka asks, how can I add a new translation? Should I just register at Weblate and create one? Yeah, go ahead and try that. I'm not entirely sure that will work. I think we just added Swedish, and we had to basically copy the CircuitPython.pot file over into a separate one for your language code, and then Weblate will work. So if we just look here, so this is the base file, the template file, and it includes all the English strings with empty message strings. And so to get it going, we just have to like copy it into the language code, and then all of the machinery for building CircuitPython will pick it up. So if we click here, we should be able to see the pull request. Oh no, this is an update. So this is what it looks like when you use Weblate. So this is the translations that Johnny did. So you can see here that it comes through as Weblate bot and also the person. And we made sure, if you've seen our weekly meetings, which I guess since we're over time, I'll start talking about it. If you want to get more involved in CircuitPython, I'm doing these Friday streams at 2 p.m. Pacific. At 11 a.m. Pacific on Mondays, we have our community meeting on Discord, which is like an hour and a half of everybody talking about the stuff that they're working on, which is pretty neat. And one of the things we do there is we always thank contributors. And once we got this thing from Johnny, we made sure that the script that determines all of the people that committed in the last week, made sure that will include these folks where like it's kind of 2 accounts associated with 1 commit. So on Monday we should be able to thank Johnny for the contribution here. And everybody's welcome to do that. If you want to participate in that, I encourage you to join our Discord, which is you can go to adafru.it/discord. And hop on there. On the stream, you can see right above me is the live broadcast chat channel. And the nice thing about Discord is that the chat lives all week. It doesn't just live with this one stream. Chess Champ asks, have you ever worked for a big tech company? I have. I worked at Google after I graduated from the University of Washington. I worked for 6 years on Google Maps. Johnny says, I had no idea this live stream was about me. I would have canceled the bar hopping I had planned. Oh yeah, it's all about you, Johnny. We love our translators. It's an interesting thing because we translate all the error messages that appear, and there's a few control messages as well. One thing I was looking for in Weblate that I didn't see is the ability to actually mark certain strings as like more important than other ones. That would be awesome, because then we could say like the stuff that you always see, we could keep track of like all the translations that had that core stuff translated.
And I still feel like there's, I haven't actually made the PR yet. And I'm failing a lot of builds, which is really weird. Okay, so we're over our 2 hours, but I kind of want to finish this PR. Are people okay with watching me debug these build failures? Chess Champ says, last question before I go smoke. Have I ever created an app? Not really, no. I mean, I played around with it, but I've not released an app on like an app store. When I was at Google, I was working on the rendering server. I could, but it would take time and I would have to learn a lot. Depends on what you mean by app. So how are we feeling? Should we roll into our 3rd hour? Brent says, I like to break builds on Friday afternoons too, and I can't leave until it's fixed. No, I left Google because I wasn't liking it. Duke says, go ahead. Debug away. All right, Just Champ, I gotta focus. Let's start from the top. Should we start from the top, or should we start from this one, which is a different port? And it should definitely be a different problem. Yeah, it's just missing this port fix stack. So let's go there. Okay. Let's just pick one of these. These ones should be easy to fix. Feather. Oh, that one's not working. So let's try it. Johnny says go. Bruce says yes, can't look away. The tension is palpable. And BuzzGame says build systems are the worst. You think you're done and then build problems. It's true, but I'd much rather find out before I break master. And by having the CI do it means I don't have to wait for my computer, my local computer, to spin for an hour. Test Champ says next stream should be a Q&A about me. I'm pretty sure this stream has been a Q&A about me. Which is fine. I'm not the only person on Adafruit though. Mark says, I just got my first pull request accepted, and my fear was I'd break everything somehow. It's okay. Even if you do, we can fix it. Fede2 says, yeah, let's roll. All right, we're going to keep going. Mr. Certainly says, go ahead, and to paraphrase Bob Ross, you can do anything you want. This is your stream. It's true. I'm just breaking stuff. Now I'm fixing it. That's what the CI is for, is to tell me I should have tested more than I did. I knew that would happen. That's just silly. I'll fix the port, the fixed port stack, or the fixed stack port stuff first, because I think that's the IMXRT and the STM32 are the problems. Like that's what the problem is on those. The build size one is probably that I somehow swapped, like including something that it didn't include before. Okay, so this is the port fix stack thing. And on IMX, we actually should return it. This is a relatively new thing where
in the SAMD51, we have like one memory range where the stack usually grows from the top end of the stack, and then the heap is like chunked at the bottom. But the IMX and the ESP32S2 is weird because the stack is dictated by FreeRTOS. And so I like just snag that and I just use that. I let it dictate it. Because what CircuitPython will actually do is you can actually adjust the size of the stack, and then the remainder will be given to the heap on the SAMD51 because it's one memory. It's a trade-off between heap and stack. Stack means is memory typically used for like when you call functions and how many functions you can call, you can like nest. And then the IMXRT is weird because it actually has different memory regions. So it has one region that is like super fast to access from the CPU, and then another region that's like 4 times slower. And so we actually put the stack in the fast region, and we put the heap in the other region because the other region's slower but also larger. Corky says, yes, please, more coding. And Darren 2 says, hi. Hi, Darren. Okay, let's figure out. I'm talking enough that we can run the whole CI. But I should actually like fix it and then talk while we wait for the CI, not just talk while we're not waiting. Okay, so I want to snag this. And it's going to go into the other ports. So in the IMX, this is one thing that I've been pretty diligent about, is meaning that the file layouts are the same, especially where it's like the API is the same, just the implementation is different. So all the supervisor stuff should be uniform between all the ports. And let's do STM as well. Here. And I'm putting it just above the regular stack stuff. It's possible that I'm going to actually break the IMX. Well, yeah, the IMX stuff may actually break. I should probably actually test that because I tweaked the stack stuff in main. And then I don't think I updated NRF. Let's check it. Okay, awesome. So it's not in here. Mark says, I've added a PR for some new translations, including CZ for Czech, for Miroslav Zuzelka. All right, I can do that review as well. Let's just get this going first. Okay, now let's confirm that that fixes this build. And I'll move to STM and I'll move to NRF as well. That might actually be worth having show up here, which port all these boards are in. Okay, so that worked. Now let's move to STM. And I know that this, so there's a Feather NRF 52, so we did break that. I thought I saw the Feather STM, this one. This is the board we can test with here. Programming's not a competition, Chess Champ. Uh-oh, my water glass is empty. If only I had a backup behind me. Okay, so I'm gonna fix these 3 ports, the IMX, the ST, and the NRF, and then I'm gonna commit it again to see if more of these builds pass. Because a lot of these, like these Esprinos are ST, Electronut Labs, I think, are NRF. NRF Clue. And then that might just leave us with the Circuit Playground builds that failed. And the Circuit Playground custom builds tend to fail because of size, because they're very full. And we're still cruising. This takes a while.
Actually, that's something else we could do. We could try to make it faster. The problem is that looking here, we can see how long each step takes. And like the build took under 2 minutes. We can't cache that because that's actually different. This 12 seconds to make MPI cross, we could cache, but it wouldn't be that beneficial. This checkout v2 we could improve because it's pulling down some Git stuff that we don't actually need. Like it's pulling down submodules we don't use in the it's pulling down submodules in the repo that we don't actually use. And then this install deps, I don't think there's a way to cache this step right here. Oh, I don't know what it's doing. There's like something super large. Like, what is that? That's so weird. But it only took 1.2 seconds. Oh, this is the GCC ARMS download. We could actually try to make that faster. Yeah, Mark says switching to Ninja will make the CI faster. I think so too. I mean, it'll certainly make it faster for ESP32S2 because we won't really be able to do concurrency until then. It doesn't actually say how long it took. The problem is that like the cache still has to be downloaded as well, so it may not make that any faster. Which is silly. This one looks like it's hung. Okay. So that works. And our F. And I didn't clean it, but that's fine. Feather NRF52840 Express, I think is what it's called. Clean. And I'm not actually doing it concurrently here. J17 means you can do 16 or 17 things at once. Because I have a 8-core processor that has hyperthreading, which is 16 things. Let's do the review for Mark while we're waiting for that. It's going to be waiting on the CI as well. But such is life. Add empty language files. Oh boy. Adding 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. We can do that. That's going to make our CI slower. Because it does take time. Did I finish my thought here? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Okay. More translation stuff. And, oh, I just wanted to point out how long it takes. Well, first I'll review it. Because as long as you're going to have people do it, I want to make sure they can. Yasir asks, hey man, are you the lead developer for ESP32S2? I'm not. I would say I'm the lead developer for CircuitPython, and I'm the only one working on it for the ESP32S2. So kind of. I'm the only developer for ESP32S2 on CircuitPython. Somebody who works on ESP32S2 for Espressif is usually on the stream, but is not here today. Fetty2 says, I think you can cache dependencies with build CI. What do you mean by build CI? Do you mean GitHub? Maybe wait on merging the PR then. We can look and see how long it takes. If I find the right tab. So for this, well, that one failed. For this one that passed, if we look at the build step, it took total of 4 minutes. And I should say, for the SAMD21, we run link time optimization. Whoa. And so that means that this last step is pretty slow. So what you'll notice is that the first compilation took 66 seconds, and then subsequent ones for different translations take about 14 seconds. And this scroll is like really weird. But yeah, it's about 14 seconds per language. Such a weird scroll for SAMD. And then if any of the other ones actually built, we'd be able to see how long it takes for the other ones. Yeah, with GitHub CI. Yeah, I did some caching for the ESP32S2, but not for the other builds yet. Okay, so this one worked too. So let's add those 3. And I'm not gonna commit amend. I'll just fix it. It's okay that this goes here. Add port fix stack. Is that what it was? Builds. I'll do it. Push. No force release. Generation says, is CircuitPython a separated language from standard Python suite? Yes, it's a completely different implementation based on MicroPython. And the standard Python that you know of is typically called CPython because it's implemented in C as well. But in practice, like we would have a hard time running standard Python on these microcontrollers because they simply don't have the resources that CPython expects. Okay. So if we look through here again, we're going to have to take a look at the Circuit Playground builds as well. So let me open another thing. The nice thing is that I'm running these actions on my user, which means they shouldn't block the Adafruit ones. And Freeman, I see your question. I'll get you in just a second. I just wanted to pull this up too. Freeman says, hey, I'm involved with open source CPU, not RISC-V or ARM-based, and we might soon have a datasheet for it and run it by people. Whom in the Adafruit community could I ask if there's interest in getting feedback for the datasheet? I think folks on here may be interested. The challenge with an open source CPU is not the CPU itself, but the tool chain around it. So I'd be curious to hear whether you have GCC support, for example. And why not RISC-V as well? Because they have all the tooling. But in terms of CircuitPython, if the chip does not have native GCC is fine, but not. We don't use LLVM right now. I'd love to, but we don't. Mark says, seems you can create a custom Docker image with the deps installed already for the CI. That would speed up the setting up of the deps, I guess. I don't know Docker. So how does Docker, what gets cached? It wasn't clear to me like where the boundary for like what Docker does every time you set it up and what doesn't. So yeah, I don't know enough about Docker to know. It would be great if we could actually like make this checkout happen once, because that takes a long time as well. Freeman, the other place you could ask folks about is on the Adafruit Discord, which I think on the stream there's a... I'm always backwards. Here. There's a link to the Adafruit Discord. You could ask people there. All right.
We also have to look at the circuit playground thing. Generation says, is it the best way to make a program to run a homemade device? Can you give more examples for making programs to run homemade hardware? I think you need to be more specific. Yeah, I'm not sure what you're asking. Fetty2 says you could have a Docker image called CPI Builder, use Ubuntu as a base, and add the packages that are apt-getted in the build script. Mark says, oops, too many images. Ah, Bruce says I have a book for that. It's called the Docker Cookbook. Oh, too many Docker images. Yeah, we'll definitely take any help on speeding up our CI. That would be awesome. Okay. The whole goal is to get this PR out, and I'm just chatting. So let me replicate this issue with the circuit playground and figure out what our problem is. So auto-completed because I've had this problem before. Oh, so this is circuit playground blue fruit, which I think we fixed already. And this is the cricket. And if this is the only one that doesn't build, I wonder why. Is it Korean that doesn't work? Chess Champ says pizza and Coca-Cola or toasted bagel with strawberry and cream cheese and hot tea. Definitely toasted bagel with strawberry and cream cheese. I'm not a Coke person, a Coca-Cola person. Pizza's good though. Freeman says RISC-V was not around when the project started. It's a clone of the out-of-patent Super H architecture, which has great instruction set density. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, for CircuitPython, as long as we could do GCCs, or yeah, use GCC for it, wouldn't be too hard. But we'd want native USB. Okay, so that fit. I think it was Chinese that didn't work. I'm definitely not going over 3 hours. That would be outrageous. Bruce is learning more about Docker. Asked for resources. Buzzy Game says the great thing about Docker is it runs the commands in the Docker file and creates an image of the state of the container. Uses that from now on. That's my understanding of it. Once you made the image Docker, once you make the Docker image, it needs to download the image from Docker Hub. Is that true for Action with GitHub Actions as well? Freeman says, yeah, way too many chats at the same time. Yeah, totally. Generation says, I want to build a circuit and connect it to USB and make software to control it for Windows or DOS. Does assembly language do the job? I would not recommend assembly language. Anything you're connecting over USB, there's a lot of logic around doing USB. The lowest level I would go is using tiny USB and C code, but I would start with CircuitPython, and then if that doesn't work, then move lower level. Okay, so we've replicated this. I guess last time that it was the cat's user that stopped me. Well, I was stopping anyway. So the question is why did the size of this increase? Like the only things we changed in the ESP32
the only things we changed. We did a little bit of the build stuff. What build stuff did we change? We did change that a little bit. Special methods from 0 to 1. Let's see. What are our build settings for this? There's no way it's a full build. That would be outrageous. Boards, Cricut, MP config board. Full build's not set. And all this stuff is turned off. Pixel buff is on. Yeah, you heard crows. The window's open, so it's not that hard. I'm quite stumped on this, actually. Why we wouldn't... Oh, that's not what I want. Like, why we're too big. The thing that we could try actually is we could check out Adafruit Master and see just like what the difference is. This is a good thing to show though, because this is, if you start contributing to CircuitPython, this is something that's going to happen for sure. So I cleaned and we're going to rebuild and we're going to see just on master. Difference. Nice. Mark posted a sample Docker image. Yeah, I mean, if it speeds the build up, I'm all for it, for sure. When are you going to have some free time to play Valorant or Call of Duty Warzone? I have free time on the weekend, but I'd rather play Age of Empires. Okay, so we have 168 bytes free now. So that's a difference of, it was negative 168 bytes, I think, with the... Oh, you know what we could do? We can copy, build, express, Cricut. What? We can compare the two. Oh, geez. That's not what I want. It didn't make it. What's with that? Or did it, oh, I cleaned it already. Huh. Oops. Let's go back and do that. No silly clean. You might be able to find other people to play Warzone, but I'm not interested. Thanks for the invite, though. Mark says, I thought it said negative 168 bytes free, but it was a bit of dust on my screen. Yeah, Johnny's asking about the difference between using Alpine and Ubuntu for the Docker image. And my guess is that it's file size. Just like how big the distro images are. Okay, so what I was going to do is here, I'm going to master Cricut. Okay, And then I'm going to check out. And clean. We could scroll back. Did I miss something? I think I've been pretty good at keeping up with the chat. So the question is, actually, you know, let's check on we did the build that fixed more stuff, which I think is this one. Yeah, add port fix stack for more builds. So it's just getting to the point of doing more stuff, probably because this original one was still finishing. Oh man, so many broken builds. Symbol broke. STM stuff. Did the FOMU break? Well, that's not build arm though. Nope, FOMU's okay. And our ESP builds worked, which is good. All right, cool. So I think that we're close. The question still remains why this one circuit playground build got 300 or so bytes bigger. If I'm on the right track, then this build, that's the only thing that'll fail in this build. Fede2 has a +1 to Alpine. Yeah, all this Docker fanciness. Okay, so we ran out of 136 bytes, which is just so strange. Let's actually compare these two things. So, interesting. This has this has full build 1, and we tied something to full build, I think, which would explain it. What was that? It's in Pi, circuit Pi, MP config. Definitions. It was the one that was related to Microlab. Folks in the chat are talking about Docker. Maybe it was in the H file? Yeah, it was in here. Maybe? Yes, this. This is what we're adding to that build. Which we shouldn't. Okay, so we can just go into the board def, np config board, and override it. I'm surprised it's a full build, actually. It's quite a small board. Is that really helpful if I just say turn this thing off? No, it's not. Okay, let's see if that does it. Everybody following along with what I'm doing? Or y'all checked out because it's the weekend? Oh, I got closer. Really?
I don't trust it. Like, I don't think I changed anything else. It shouldn't be that much different. Comparison. I could make the PR now, because I might break stuff in the future. We've cleaned it up. I wonder if I just bought myself. Yeah, it is full build. Oh, look at that. It fit now. After a clean. That's a good thing to remember. Okay, cool. I think we should call it. It's 4:41, which means I'm 2 hours and 45 minutes in. So I'm going to add that and turn reverse methods off. CPX cricket. And I'm going to push that, and I'm going to make the PR and celebrate. Then you all can review it and test it this weekend for me, if you would be so kind. All right. Create pull request. Add initial ESP32S2 support. Unexpected maker? Y'all have seen this anyway. Okay. Labels. ESP32S2. Milestone. Features. And I think it's ready. Boom. Create pull request. All right, let's wrap up. Thank you all for hanging out. It's been a pleasure. Always like to chat with you all. I've been streaming, doing this deep dives every Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific on the Adafruit channels. It goes out to Twitch and YouTube and LinkedIn and Periscope, I think. Lots of places. Join us in the Discord to hang out all week. Like I said, we have an 11 a.m. community meeting on Mondays. We have show and tells that happen Wednesday morning, Wednesday evening, and Thursday afternoon as well. And then we have Ask an Engineer, and thank you, Mr. Certainly, for doing showtimes. It turns out my deep dives are not on there. I should probably add that. But yeah, lots of neat shows here on Adafruit. For those of you who don't know, Adafruit is a hobby electronics company. They pay me to work on CircuitPython. It's all open source, both code or both software and hardware. Go to adafruit.com to support them and indirectly support me. Thank you all for the help. Happy to see this pull request get out. And so Adafruit is shipping orders, so you can order from them or you can order from DigiKey. They both help. The Discord link's down at the bottom. And besides that, I think that's it. I hope everybody has a great weekend. I'm excited to see what you make with this ESP32S2 stuff. And once this pull request is in, we'll be able to get a bunch more stuff out. So I'll chat with you on the Discord next week and be on this live stream next Friday as well, I think. Actually, let me think about that because my wife has the day off. So no promises about next week. So keep an eye on blog.adafruit.com. I do make posts there. If it turns out I'm not going to work on Friday, I could probably do it on Thursday. Although John Park has show and tell at 2:30, so the time might be different. So keep your eye out for next week because it is a holiday weekend for us in the US next weekend. So with that, I will talk with everybody on Discord and keep you posted about streaming next week. And thanks again to everybody. Sleep well for those of you in Europe. Bye.